Hey, Shalom, Israel. It's been a couple of weeks. Hey, we want to get right into this lesson tonight. We're still in Jacob's trouble, and tonight we want to reveal the fourth beast. That being said, we're going to jump on into Daniel chapter 7, and we're going to start off in verse 7. And before we get started, I want to give all glory, honor, and praise to Yahweh by Hashem, Mashiach, Yahweh Shah. Look, without the Lord, we couldn't do anything. So we're going to get into this thing. You might remember the last three episodes. We revealed that we talked about the Assyrians, we talked about the Babylonians, the Persians, the Medes. Then we got into the Greeks, and we showed that the Greeks were actually Edomites. They were descendants of Esau. Okay. We also showed that Alexander the Great was called the devil, the rough goat. When we went into the rough goat, looked at the definition and said devil. Okay. So let's get into this next beast. All right. It says Daniel chapter 7 and verse 7. Let's pull it up. Share my screen real quick. And we have a lot of information to share tonight. We're going to go into some historical documents, and we're going to go into the scriptures, see what the scriptures say. We're going to show some pictures. We're going to do quite a bit. So let's get started. Right here, we have Daniel 7 and 7. It says, after this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast. Remember that. We're revealing who the fourth beast is. Dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns. Now you have to understand something. When it says it stamped the feet, it's talking about it trampled on nations, okay? And you remember we showed you that horns are kings, okay? So it had 10 horns, all right? Let's look up that word. Let's look up that phrase real quick. Show y'all something here. I didn't think about this earlier, so let me see if I can find it real quick. Right here, Revelation 17 and 12. Let me write that down. Make sure I covered everything that I wanted to cover. So Revelation 17 and 12 says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings. So we're talking about 10 kings. That's what the 10 horns were in the book of Daniel, okay? Which have received no kingdom as yet. So at the time that this is prophesied, this is when John the Revelator is alive. This is the same John that walked with Christ. These kings were not in existence yet, okay? But received power as kings 1 hour with the beast, okay? All right. So the beast, we're talking about the fourth beast, and these 10 kings are going to go along with the beast. They're going to be part of the beast, okay? All right. So let's go from there to here. Let's go now. I want to show you these 10 kings. Let me stop sharing this. I'm going to tell you how to find this. See, Esau tells on himself. And the Bible says in Psalms that his tongue was going to fall down on itself, which means he's going to reveal everything. Okay? So let's stop sharing real quick so that I can share something else with you. So let's go. I'm going to share my screen actually. And I want to entire screen. That's what I want to show. Is it going to let me do it? It's not going to let me do it. Hold on a second. We got to get this. Give me just a second. There we go. There we go. All right. All right. So hopefully y'all see this. So let me reduce that. Let me bring this up right here. Let me spread that. All right, here we go. Here we go. So we talked about the 10 horns. Now, they told you that it's 10 kings who did not yet receive power. So I went out there and I did the research for you, found out who these 10 nations were. Because when Rome got defeated, they came back under the Roman Catholic Church. And the Roman Catholic Church would give these different nations the power to go out and to conquer and to rule and to enslave people. Okay, we're going to show all of that. Okay, so on the left, I gave the name of what they were called in the past, and then I gave the nation that they are today. Okay, so the first one of the 10 horns is the Anglo Saxons, and that's the English, that's England. Then you have the Franks. Well, obviously, that's France. You have the Alemanni, that's the Germans. You have the Lombards, which are the Italians. The Burgundians, which is Switzerland and France. The Visigoths, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of, that's Spain. The Suevi, that's Portugal. Vandals, that's North Africa. All of these were part of the Roman Empire. Okay, and I haven't proven to you yet that it's talking about the Roman Empire. I'm going to in just a second, but I want to give you this information first, and then I'm going to prove to you that Ostrogoths, right here, that's Italy and the Balkans, okay? And then the Huruli, that's Southern Europe, okay? Now let's get into proving that the fourth beast is the Roman Empire. Now, if you remember when we went over the earlier beasts, we were in the Torah or the Old Testament, and the Old Testament had the stories of the Assyrians. It had the story of the Babylonians. It had the story of the Persians and the Medes. It introduced the Greeks, but then we had to go to the Apocrypha and the Maccabees to get the story of the Greek oppression. Okay? Now, the Bible would not be complete if it didn't have the Roman oppression, because the Bible is not a religious book; it's a history book of the Jews. It's prophecies to tell the Jews that we're going to be delivered and that the Lord was going to send us a deliverer. Okay, and so we have the history, we have the current events, because a lot of this stuff is written as it's happening, and then you also have prophecies of the future. Okay, so just like we had to use the Old Testament and the Apocrypha, guess what? Now we got to go to the New Testament. And that's where you're going to find the Roman captivity. So for those who don't believe in the New Testament, you're Old Testament only. That's why you don't even know who the Romans are. See, you're still stuck in Romans being black people. Yeah, all of Europe was black at one time. But the Romans who persecuted us, they're the Caucasians. We're going to get into all of that. Okay. So let's go to where do I want to go? Let's go to Luke chapter 3, verse 1. Now, you might remember in Luke chapter 3, that's where the lineage of Christ is given. It's given in Matthew chapter 1 and it's given in Luke chapter 3. But it's something important that happens in Luke. So let me stop sharing this screen. Or do I want to keep this? Let's stay right here. Let's do this. Let's go back to let's do this. Okay, Jay and Lola scribing for us. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And we're going to go to Luke chapter 3. And what did I tell you? Luke 3 and 1 is where we're going to go. All right. So we have discovered Xerxes. We've discovered Nebuchadnezzar. We've discovered Alexander the Great. We discovered Antiochus. We discovered Alexander the Great's 4 generals that came up under him. All of these names are historical names, and they're in the Bible. Okay? This is not a myth. This is telling you about actual historical events that you can look up, and it took place just as the Bible says. So let's go to Luke chapter 3, verse 1. We're going to discover some more people. It says, now in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar. So The Caesar at that time's name is Tiberius. Pontius Pilate being governor of Judea, and Herod being tetrarch of Galilee, and his brother Philip tetrarch of Iturea and of the region of Trachonitis. And I'm going to just let you read the rest of that. So we have some very important historical figures here. Pontius Pilate being one. Now, this Herod is not the Herod that went to kill Christ. This is a descendant of his, but we're going to touch on that tonight as well. Okay, but these are historical figures. Okay, and we're going to come back to this, but before we do, I want to show you something else. I just thought about it. Let's look up Herod real quick. I think Matthew 2:1. That's where I want to go. Matthew 2:1, yeah. So let's get you a story real quick. Matthew 2:1. This is Herod the king, okay? Because I want to show you some information on this Herod. It says, now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. Okay? Now let's keep going. Let's jump down to verse 13 now. So the wise men, it starts off talking about them, it says, and when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, arise and take the young child and his mother and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. Verse 14, when he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, out of Egypt have I called my son. Now watch this, verse 16. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, because he had told the wise men to seek out Christ and come back and tell him where he may be. Well, they went back a different route, so they didn't have to tell Herod, okay? So let's read that again. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the coasts thereof, for from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. So Herod, talking to the wise men, knew that Christ was around the age of 2 years old. So any child 2 years old and under, he had him killed. This was the king. Now, why is that king so wicked? I'm going to show you some stuff about him. Let's do this right here. Let's go to Wikipedia. Now, hope y'all can see that. It says Herod, or Herod the Great, was a Roman Jewish client king of the Herodian kingdom. So what is that telling you? The Romans made him king. Okay? Now look at the color when you click on him. They how they depict him. They don't depict him white. Okay? And he's of the Herodian kingdom of Judea. He is known for his colossal building projects throughout Judea. But that's not what I want you to get. We're going to go down and we're going to see this. Right here, it says Herod the Great is described in Christian Bible as the coordinator of the massacre of the innocents. Do you see that? He did that, and they document it. Now, it goes on. Well, let's read some more. However, most of the New Testament references are to his son, Herod Antipas, such as the events leading to the executions of John the Baptist and Jesus of Nazareth. So that's why I came here, because Luke is not talking about Herod the Great. It's talking about Herod Antipas, okay? But I want you to see some more stuff about Herod the Great. Let's go down to his biography. Herod was born around 72 BCE in Idumea. Now, you might remember, I told you, and I believe I showed you, that Idumea is the Greek way of saying Edom. In other words, remember Esau's name was changed to Edom? This is an Edomite. This is a descendant of Esau. Herod was born around 72 BCE in Idumea, south of Judea. He was the second son of Antipater the Idumean. Not Antipater, his son, but his father's name was Antipater also, and his father was an Edomite, a high-ranking official under that person. But that's what I wanted you to see, that he was an Edomite. See, his father was an Edomite. His mother was a Jew. Okay? So here we go. So they call him Jewish because you are what your father is. Let's show you that real quick. Let's go back. Let's go to Numbers 1 and 18 because the Jewish people, they trace their ancestry through their mothers, which is not biblical. Let's go to verse 18. All right here. It says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So your pedigree or your lineage was declared by the house of your fathers, not your mothers, okay? So because his father was Idumean, he was an Idumean. But if you notice, it started off telling you he's Roman Jewish. You see what I'm saying? How did he become Roman Jewish? Because Rome comes from Idumea, because the Greeks come from Idumea. We're going to show you that tonight. That we already showed you about the Greeks, but we're going to show you how the Romans became Grecians. Okay? How those two nations were tied together. So let's go now to where do we want to go? We showed that. I want to go now to Christ and see what's going on there. What did Christ say? Let's go to Matthew 24 and 2. Let's go back to where we started this whole thing off at. Now we're going to tie this together even more. Be patient with me. We're getting there. All right. Verse 2. And Jesus, or as we would say, Yahweh said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So what is Christ talking about? He's talking to the disciples, and he's telling them about the destruction that's about to come. And he's telling them that not one stone should be left upon another, because the Romans are coming in to destroy it. So let's get right here. In 70 CE, the Romans, led by General Titus, besieged Jerusalem, culminating in the destruction of the Second Temple. Now, when we talked about King Herod, you see that he was appointed by the Romans to be king over Judea. Now, look, let's read that again. In 70 CE, the Romans, led by General Titus, besieged Jerusalem, culminating in the destruction of the Second Temple, a pivotal event in Jewish history. Now, if you think back, we went to the Babylonians and them destroying the temples, but it was the Edomites who were saying, raise it, getting them to destroy it. And then the Babylonians took all the valuables out of the temple. Then we get to the Greeks, and the Greeks are actually Edomites. And they go steal all the valuables out of the temple, and they sacrifice abominable animals like pigs upon the altar. So now we get to the Romans, and they destroy the temple. But not only do they destroy the temple, I want to show you something. They depicted this destruction. Let me see if I can find the picture real quick. If not, we'll find it in a second and come back to it. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. So this is a parade that they had in Rome after they destroyed the temple. Right here is where you have the Ark of the Covenant. Over here is where you have the 7 candlesticks that represent the seven angels and the 7 churches. See, they depict themselves taking this stuff from the temple. And this picture, this mural right now is in the Vatican. Okay? So I want you to take a look at the people. See if we can bring that in even more. Look at those people. This is how they depicted themselves. This is what they say they look like. We didn't do this. We didn't create these murals. They did that. The people who destroyed the temple painted themselves. Um, do we want to go there now? Let me see if I can find my other picture I want to show y'all before we go there. Right here, this is, it says stones from the western wall of the temple. And I know you can't see underneath that. Let me see if I can reduce this. I got larger. But anyway, these are stones still in place that the Romans threw down off the wall when they were destroying the temple. This is exactly what Christ was talking about in Matthew. You see, this stuff actually happened. Now, I was just talking to you about the mural and where they painted themselves. So let's go to First Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 48 real quick. I want to show you something. Am I there already? No, I'm in Wisdom of Solomon. So let's do this. And we're going to come back to to the Wisdom of Solomon, but I want to get you in First Maccabees chapter 3. Chapter 3. Getting there. Verse 48. All right. Now, this is the Greeks, okay? And it says, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. See, what you see in today's Bible are the depiction of what the heathens look like. And these particular heathens are Greeks and Grecians, and Grecians are Edomites. Okay? So what I want to do now is take you to Job chapter 9, verse 24, because Job talks about the same thing. And a lot of this is review. I don't think we touched on Job before, but I want to. Job 9 and 24 says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, or the heathen, or the unrighteous. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. Well, who covered up the faces of Christ? Who covered up the faces of Paul and Peter and Moses, Zechariah, Zerubbabel? Who did this? That's what Job goes on to ask. He says, if not, where and who is he? So if he's not the wicked, who is? That will actually go in and take the pictures of Christ and turn them from one color to another. And the book, the Wisdom of Solomon, is going to answer that question. But before we go there, we got to go to Revelation, because this is the book. This is the portion of the book that tells about these people. So we're going to go to Revelation 13 and verse 14 real quick. And we're going to show you something. Now, Christ told you that the people that were ruling then were going to throw all the walls down. I just showed you a picture where it tells you that the Roman soldiers did that. I mean, throw all the stones down, and then the wall wouldn't be standing. It was the Roman soldiers who did that. If you remember, the question was asked of Christ, was it legal to pay taxes to Caesar? Well, who was Caesar? A Roman? And we're going to get into Pontius Pilate, too. I showed you his name, but he's a Roman. All right. Verse 14 out of Revelation chapter 13. It says, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Remember, we're talking about the fourth beast. Saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast. What should they make? They should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. Now, we're going to talk about that wound by a sword in a little bit. Remember that phrase, okay? I'm going to go ahead and tell you, Rome was destroyed, but then Rome came back. Okay? So we're going to show you how they came back. But let's go now to this, let's go to Wisdom of Solomon. And let's talk about this image that was made to the beast. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, is going to tell us the whole story of that. Let's go back to the top. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14. We're going to start in verse 12. This is a story that I really like revealing because this talks about some people. We'll just go on in and we'll scroll down to verse 12. All right, let's go. This is how it starts off. It says, "For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication." I want you to take note of something. Do I want to do that? Yeah. As we read down through here, I want you to take note of verse 15, 16, 17, 21, 24, and 27. Then we're going to get into chapter 15, verse 4. Those are very important verses, okay? Because I'm going to show you as we get to them. Let's go back to this. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication. How did spiritual fornication come about? Through making idols. And the invention of them, the corruption of life. That's what corrupted life. It was idols. See, if we had always worshiped the Most High, there's no spiritual fornication, no corruption of life. For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever. These idols are not going to exist forever. For by the vain glory of men they entered into the world, and therefore shall they come shortly to an end. All right, so here goes the story of this image of the beast that was to be made, okay? Let's start here in verse 15. For a father afflicted with untimely mourning. Now, who it is talking about is the sixth Pope of Rome. I'm going to show you. And his name was, I can't remember, but his name before he became Pope was Borgia, was his last name. They actually made a series about him on home box office. Him and his whole family. Son sleeping with the daughter. This pope's having children, even though popes with women, and this popes are not even supposed to be married. I mean, it's all kind of corruption. He is the first pope that claimed what they called back then illegitimate children. Okay, so let's read this again. For a father afflicted with untimely mourning, when he hath made an image of his child soon taken away, now honored him as a god. What did he do about the child? He honored him as a god, which was then a dead man, and delivered to those that were under him ceremonies and sacrifices. Thus, in the process of time, an ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law, and graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings. So they were sending out this image of the beast, and they were worshiping this thing. And if you didn't bow down, worship this thing, you could be put to death. Whom men could not honor in presence because they dwelt far off, they took the counterfeit of his visage far off, far from. So when he was living, if you couldn't honor him in your presence because you lived so far away, they carried his picture. And it said the kind of counterfeit of his visage or his face, okay, and made an express image of a king whom they honored, to the end that by this their forwardness they might flatter him that was absent as if he were present. Also, the singular diligence of the artificer, the person who painted this picture, did help to set forward the ignorant to more superstition. Let's keep going. For he peradventure, willing to please one in authority, forced all his skill to make the resemblance of the best fashion. So the picture didn't even really look like the person he was painting. He doctored it up to make it look better to please the king. And so the multitude, allured by the grace of the work, took him now for a god, which a little before was but honored. So he went from being honored to being considered a god. Is what happened with the counterfeit picture. And this was an occasion to deceive the world. What did he do? And I want you to take note of this because we're going to go back to Revelation where it talks about the deceiving of the world. Okay. And this was an occasion to deceive the world. For men serving either calamity or tyranny did ascribe unto stones and stocks the incommunicable name. What is it? The incommunicable name. So they stopped calling him by his real name and gave him the name that was described in the scriptures as the Son of God. You see that? Do we want to keep reading down? Yeah, let's go. Moreover, this was not enough for them, that they erred in the knowledge of God, but whereas they lived in the great war of ignorance, those so great plagues called they peace. So when the calamity came upon them, they called it peace. When sickness came, when the black plague comes, they don't recognize that it is a penalty from God for what they're doing. It's just part of life and people die. We don't know why they died. We don't know why they're getting sick. But they never go back and check their own spirits and see what are they doing to cause this. Let's keep reading. For whilst they slew their children as sacrifices, or used secret ceremonies, or made revelings of strange rites. We got people going to jail for this stuff now. Did you go to a certain man's parties? That's what they're asking in Hollywood. Let's keep reading. One man gets killed in prison, and they still haven't released his list of people that were attending his island. Verse 24. They kept neither lives nor marriages any longer undefiled. You see that? But either one slew another traitorously or grieved him by adultery. So what happened? Your own brother sleeps with your wife. Why? All because of this, of honoring this false God, this man that they start calling God. That's how all this stuff came into the world. Watch this, verse 25. So that there reigned in all men without exception blood. Everybody's guilty of blood. Everybody's guilty of murder and death. Manslaughter, theft, dissimulation, corruption, unfaithfulness, tumults, perjury, disquieting of good men, forgetfulness of good terms, defiling of souls, changing of kind. This is where all your homosexuality comes from. Disorder in marriages. Your wife doesn't respect you as the head of the house. You walking around being soft. All of this comes from this. Adultery and shameless uncleanness. We don't even look at scripture to determine what is unclean anymore. The Bible tells you when you lay down with your wife, both of you are unclean, and the steps you have to take to get clean. But now people go out at lunchtime from their job, go sleep with somebody, and go back to work and make everybody unclean. You see what I'm saying? A woman on her cycle is supposed to separate herself, but we say we can't. You haven't tried. See, there's no shame in being unclean anymore. Verse 27, for the worshiping of idols not to be named is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. Get the idols out of your house, get out of that Christian church. They got this man's picture all over the wall. You're getting Bibles with his picture on it. Get away from it. Okay, let's go now to chapter 15. I want to show you something. Let's go to chapter 15. See, the Roman Catholic Church, they were the first ones to push this picture to the world. And then all of you other sister churches, the Protestants, the word Protestant just means to protest. Martin Luther protested against the Catholic Church, and they started all these other churches. All of y'all come from Roman Catholicism. All of y'all had this picture. All of us did at one time. We were once all Gentiles. You see what I'm saying? So let's go to Romans 15 and 4. Showing that thou canst save from all danger, yea, through a man went to sea without art. Is that what I wanted? That wasn't what I wanted. Let's start at verse 1. Again, one preparing himself to sail and about to pass through the raging waves calleth upon a piece of wood more rotten than the vessel that carrieth him. So they started carrying these crosses with this man on it, and they're bowing down praying for this thing to save them when they're going through the sea. Is that not crazy? Let's go down. This is what you are when you do this. Verse 9, for the ungodly and his ungodliness are both alike hateful unto God. All right, so let's now go to Revelation, and we're going to get into wait a minute, there was something I wanted over here about his color. Let me look up something real quick. Let me give you something real quick. I gave all the books. Nope, I wanted in Wisdom of Solomon. It doesn't show it. I'll find that verse later. I thought for sure it was Wisdom of Solomon 15:4. Let me try again. But it tells you that they painted him diverse colors. In other words, they changed the color of Christ. It's only searching. Okay, we won't worry about that right now. Let's go to Revelation chapter 19 real quick. I don't think I'm going to read it from here. I think what I'm going to do, I should have a picture of it. What I want to show you. Let me see. Oh, I know where it is. Hold on just a second. We're going to. All right, we're going to go here. All right, here we go. All right, so I want to show you something here. Let me get my Bible out so I can see clearly. Well, before we do that, I want to show you one more thing. Let's do this. I want you to understand what we're reading here. So let's go right back where we're at. I'm sorry. I think I can show it to you on here. Let's see. All right. We're going to go to Revelation chapter 20. Let me pull out my physical Bible. And I want you to understand something here. Now, I have it highlighted for you so you can understand it. Because if you read this straight through, you're going to think that it's talking about 1,000-year period, when actually it's talking about 2,000-year periods. So I have it highlighted in yellow and in blue. And I want to show you something. This little symbol right here, if you can see it, that is a paragraph marker. It lets you know that we're now in a new thought process. And I had that, if I could get back in, let me see something. This is, here it goes. Let's see if it'll let me pull it up. It's not letting me get back to it. StreamYard. It's not letting me expand it. Shoot, we're gonna need that later. Okay, we're not gonna worry about it. We're not gonna worry about it. Close that out. Okay. All right, so we have a paragraph marker. So I want to read this to you. We're going to start on chapter 20, verse 1. It says, "And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years." Now, this 1,000-year period is talking about Satan being bound, okay? "And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more." Remember, we were talking about the deception of the nations? "Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season." Now let's jump down to verse 7, which is over here. You see there's another paragraph marker. So there's something that was written between there. We're going to go back and talk about that, because when we get down to verse 4, there's a paragraph marker. So the subject changes, okay? Let's go to verse 7. All right. "And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth." Okay? Now, we just showed you that they used the image of the beast to deceive the nations. This is when it happened, after this 1,000 years. You said the 1,000 years couldn't have happened. Oh, yeah, it happened already. And I'm going to show it to you. But before we do that, let's go back and show you this other 1,000-year period and show you it's talking about something different. Go to verse 4. It says, "And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh and for the word of Yahweh, and which had not worshipped the beast. You see that? This was after the image of the beast. Neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. In other words, mark upon their foreheads, they did not think evil like the wicked people. Wicked people. Mark upon their hands, they didn't do the evil deeds. And they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. You see that? This is talking about the 1,000 years when the saints reign with Christ. But the rest of the dead live not again until 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. You get that? That's two different 1,000-year periods. The 1,000-year period we're talking about right now is Satan being locked up and released. Now I got to get back into my screen to be able to show y'all what I want to show you. Before I do that, I want to show you another picture. Remember we were talking about they painted pictures of themselves? These are the Romans. They're the ones who said this is them. We didn't do that. Okay? Let's go back down and see what else I had for you. Okay, so let's look at this 1,000-year period. This is the Byzantine Empire. You'll see it right here. Now, the Byzantines were actually part of the Roman Empire, but they rose up against the Roman Empire. And the first Byzantine was actually the start of the Catholic Church. That was Constantine the Great. Okay, and they ended up making their capital city Constantinople, which is modern day Istanbul in Turkey. Okay, now they defeated Rome, but rather than record it like that, what the historians like to do is call it the Eastern Roman Empire, and they like to call the other part of Rome the Western Roman Empire. Now, the thing about these people is you see a lot in the New Testament about the Greeks, and it says neither Jew nor Greek, because we had adopted Greek customs. When Alexander the Great's people came in and defeated us, well, a lot of us had become Hellenized. Hellenized just means you have adopted Greek customs. You consider yourself to be Greek, no different than someone from Nigeria coming over here to America and start considering themselves to be American and taking on American customs. Okay. So the Greeks that they're talking about in the New Testament, if you go in and look at the Greek word behind it, it a lot of times say Hellenized. When it says that, it's talking about us as Jews. Okay. So Jews living like Greeks, keeping Greek customs. All right. So let's see about what these folks did. Let me get my encyclopedia. Now, this is the Britannica Encyclopedia. Okay. And so let's see. It says right here where it says Byzantine Empire. I can't really see it good. I'm gonna read it out of my book. The Byzantine or East Roman Empire, remember I told you that, was in essence the Roman Empire in its medieval form. And its early beginnings can already be discerned in the reign of Constantine the Great, who profoundly influenced the course of European and imperial history. There was no break in continuity, for the Roman imperial tradition and Hellenistic civilization continued to be essential elements in the Byzantine polity. But Constantine's adoption of Christianity and his foundation of Constantinople, that's the capital city named after him, marked a new epoch. All right. Now let's drop down where I got it highlighted right here. Remember we were talking about 1,000 years? Look at this highlight. During its long life of 1,130 years, the Christian empire had various roles. Do you see that? See, at this time, see, these Byzantines, they're actually Jews. We had taken control. All right. They took control of the eastern part of Europe. And when it talks about the pit, pit is just a land. You remember where it talks about God has a favorite flower, God has a favorite people, God has a favorite pit, and that land is Jerusalem, right? A pit is just land. So when it says that he was locked up in the pit, it's just saying that we took the Romans and we locked them up. Well, where did we lock them? In the Caucasus Mountains. See, when we defeated them, a lot of them ran to the Caucasus Mountains, and that's why they became known as Caucasians. So when we look at, do I want to get that out of Job? No, we're not going to get that out of Job. I'm not going to worry about it. We're just going to keep down this course. I want you to keep watching this, keep looking at this. So during the reason it says 1130 years, because in Western Europe, something else was happening. Something else happened. The Moors took over in Western Europe, but that was a different time period. That was 700 years. But 1130 years, that's roughly 1,000 years, depending on who's counting. Okay. So the Romans were locked up for 1,000 years, and that's why I say he took a wound and then he lived again. Okay, because they came back after that, and that's why you have the 10 kingdoms that I was showing you. Remember, it talked about Rome, and then it talked about 10 kings that had not yet been given power, because Rome was in existence and ruling the world at the time that Christ walked this earth. Matter of fact, they were ruling Judea. And so John the Revelator says they're in power now. There's going to be 10 kings that come up later, because when they revitalized under the Catholic Church, all of Europe was governed pretty much by Catholicism. They didn't go to war without permission from the church, without blessing from the church. You see what I'm saying? And you'll see that in a lot of movies. The Vatican comes out and pronounces them that they're going to have victory, and they go out and they're looking to get permission from the Vatican before they go to war. And they're sending gifts and things like that, trying to bribe the Pope. All right, so we got that now. Another thing I want to show you in here. You might see I have it underlined here. The Byzantines were very big in bringing about the Greco-Roman world. See, the Romans at first were not they were not the Romans of today. They were actually black people. And we're going to show you their name later on in this lesson. But the Byzantines, because they were influenced by the Greeks so heavily, they actually aligned themselves with the Greek and brought that influence in. And then the Greeks actually took over Rome. Now, there was Greek influence before then, but you had a lot of stuff going on. And the major powers were Edomites, but you had a lot of other stuff going on. Matter of fact, I want to show you something real quick. I just thought about that. I want to show you someone else prevalent. Let's see, can we pull it up now? It's going to let us get back to the Bible. We may have to close this out. Let me see if I need anything else here before I close it out. What do we have here? Byzantine, Roman religion. Do we want to do that yet? Let's hold off on that. Hope you didn't see that yet. Let's hold off on that a little bit. It's going to let me minimize. Okay, we were able to minimize. All right, so let's go back to what did I want to look up? Acts. It was did I have that? Do we want to show that tonight? Claudius. All right, so we have in Acts 11 and 28. Let me pull that up. It says, and there stood up one of them named Agabus, and signified by the Spirit that there should be great dearth throughout all the world, which came to pass in the days of Claudius Caesar. You see that? This is another historical figure, Claudius Caesar. I want to show you some more about him, okay? What he did. And I'm showing you this because I want you to understand that this book follows our history. And if you trust in it, you'll know a lot about what was going on. So let's go to Acts 18 and 2 and look at Claudius Caesar again. And found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy. Now look, now Rome is in Italy. Now let's see why Aquila came from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius, I wanted to show you that Claudius was Caesar, had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome and came unto them. All Jews had to leave Rome. Claudius Caesar commanded that. It's a historical event. You can look it up, you'll find it, and it's just like the Bible recorded. Okay? And I'm saying this, I want to show all this stuff because I don't understand how a person can be Old Testament only. You have to know nothing about history because you got to know what that the Jews were persecuted by the Romans. You got to know that the Romans ruled Judea, the Romans ransacked Judea, the Romans actually they put defiled animals on our altar. They tore our altar down. They raped and killed our women and children and our men. And then they sold us into slavery, those of us that did not escape. And I showed you in the first episode that it's recorded that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa. And at the same time, the slave markets were flooded with black Jews. Okay? So let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Where do I want to go next? I wanted to go to John chapter 19, verse 34 real quick while we're over here. Now, I hope y'all got that part where I had gone to Revelation and showed you how there are 2,000-year periods. You got to understand that, or that book will totally confuse you. A lot of people want to read it in sequence as if it's a novel. It's not written in sequence. And you have to understand history. And most of all, you have to be filled with the Lord's Spirit to be able to discern this stuff. Okay? Now, this book has real historical value to it. And if you know some things about history, you'll be able to see that some of this stuff has already happened. So watch this. So we already know that the Romans are ruling. And so the soldiers of Rome are there. And so John 19:34 says, but one of the soldiers, this is when Christ is up on the cross, with a spear pierced his side, and forthwith came there out blood and water. So I'm trying to show you who's in charge. This Roman soldier was able to pierce the side of Christ. When Christ was praying before he got brought before Pilate, it was the Roman soldiers who approached he and his disciples. And Peter cut off one of the ears of the Roman soldiers. You see what I'm saying? They were ruling. And Christ came and told us how to survive during these times that were coming. And he said there will be no time like what was just about to happen. So I showed y'all about Herod the Great, and I showed you about about Joseph being warned and going into Egypt, right? So let's now get into the sixth Pope of Rome, since we were talking about the image of the beast. I hope I made it clear that Rome was ruling then, so Rome is the fourth beast. And Rome got defeated and was brought down for 1,000 years, but Rome came back. That beast still exists today. So before we go to the sixth Pope of Rome, let's go back to Daniel 7 so I can show something. Let's go down to verse 8. Let's go back to 7. We're going to read 7 and 8. It says, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. See, it existed, and then it had 10 horns. Remember, we showed you that in Revelation? Those 10 kings had not yet received power. Verse 8, and this all goes back to Esau hiding his identity. See, he went into Greek from Macedonia, and then he declared himself to be Greek. You see what I'm saying? He goes into all these different countries, and he calls himself everything but an Edomite. Verse 8, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. We're going to reveal that little horn to you next week. Before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in the horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. Okay. And then it says, so this is still talking about the Roman Empire. And it says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the ancient of days did sit. Now we're talking about ruling, us coming back in rulership, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. You see that? Let me see something. So what I'm trying to show you is Rome will be ruling when Christ returns. Rome had a 1,000-year break and then came back as 10 other nations. But within those 10, there is a little horn that rises up, and we're going to reveal that next week. I'm trying to find something real quick. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Where is it? Yeah, it should have been verse 4 of chapter 15. Let's go back to Wisdom of Solomon real quick. I'm looking at my Apocrypha. Let me see. And then we're going to get back into Revelation, and we're going to tie up some more stuff. And am I not seeing the Apocrypha anymore? I am not seeing the Apocrypha anymore. Okay, we'll pull it back up. Doesn't matter. Apocrypha Online, KTV. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 15 and verse 4. Okay, there it goes. Verse 4. For neither did the mischievous invention of men deceive us. Remember, we were talking about the image of the beast, and the Lord is calling it the mischievous invention of men. Let's read that again. For neither did the mischievous invention of men deceive us, nor an image. Remember the image of the beast? Whoever bows down to that image can't make it into the kingdom. That doesn't mean if you bow down before, you can't repent. If you continue to go to these churches, here's the danger you get, okay? Now let's look at it. For neither did the mischievous invention of men deceive us, nor an image spotted with diverse colors. What did they do? Change the color of Christ. For neither did mischievous invention of man deceive us, nor an image spotted with diverse colors, the painter's fruitless labor. The sight whereof enticeth fools to lust after it, and so they desire the form of desire the form of a dead image that hath no breath. People have worshipped this image. They'll kill you if you touch that image or say something about it. Do you have any doubt that this is that picture of that white Jesus? Okay, well, let's go to Revelation 1, chapter 1 and 14 real quick. Now, that says they changed the color. Let's see what the color should be. All right, here we go. It said his head. Well, let's go to verse 1, see what we're talking about. The revelation of Jesus Christ. We're going to say Jesus Christ so everybody knows what we talk about, which God gave unto him. So he gave this revelation of Jesus Christ to John, the revelator. Revelation means to reveal. So we're getting ready to reveal what Christ looks like. So let's go down, start in verse 13. And in the midst of the seven candlesticks, remember the seven candlesticks I showed you that the Romans stole out the temple? One like unto the Son of Man. Where you think all that gold's at now? Probably the Vatican. Clothed with a garment down to the foot and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. So his garment goes all the way down to his feet, and he's got a golden belt around his waist. Verse 14, his head and his hairs were white like wool. So the hairs on his face and on his head, white like wool, as white as snow. So it gives the texture. It's like wool, and they lied and told us that's nappy. No, it's like wool, white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass. So he had on sandals. You could see the top of his feet, and his feet were brown in color, supposedly. Let's see how brown they are, as if they burned in a furnace. So this brown was so dark, it looked like he had been burned in a furnace. Anything that you burn is black. He looked like charcoal. And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. So this black man, they changed his color. What did they change it to? White. They painted a picture of a white man and took it around the world. And we revealed to you in First Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48, that the heathens sought to change and put the image of their likeness in our books. So what images do we have now? White people. But that wasn't the color. Well, let's keep reading. Let's keep reading. Where do we want to go now? I told y'all we were going somewhere. I can't even remember where we're going. Let's go look at the sixth Pope of Rome real quick. What do we want to do real quick? What was this? Pontius Pilate. Do we want to look at him real quick? We'll look at him a little bit. Let me show something else real quick. This is what I was talking to y'all before about the paragraph separator. It's called a several editions of the King James Version I have seen have paragraph markings. I have found no explanation. I don't know who said that. It's present in the 1611. So if you got a 1611, it's called a pilcrow or something of that something of that manner. Let me see if I can make it look it up real quick. Well, paragraph markings. Let's see. Let's see what it says. Must be accept all cookies. Necessary cookie. I can't find anything straightforward. It's called a pilcrow is what it is, but it's a paragraph marker. It lets you know you have a new thought. Pilcrow, I think that's the proper name of it. So we're going to leave that alone real quick. Let's go ahead now to here goes Pontius Pilate. Let's see what we say. Pontius Pilate was the Roman governor of Judea. Roman governor. You see that? We're talking about the fourth beast. Roman governor of Judea who ordered the crucifixion of Yahweh Shai. Learn about his life sources, things of that nature. Okay. That's mainly what we want to get out of that. All they're going to do is go down and argue about was it intentional? Did he really want to do it? Things of that nature. He did it. That's what we need to know. The Romans crucified our Christ. Okay. The real temple, they destroyed it. And they also destroyed the physical temple. Okay. I should say the real temple, they destroyed him. So it's some more information on Pontius Pilate. Just things I was just telling you. And you see how they depict him, but hey, they depict a lot of people like that. All right, so Herod Agrippa, we have some information on him. Herod Agrippa I was the last king of Judea, ruling from AD 41 to 44, known for his political acumen and his role in the early Christian church. So the early Christian church was started, well, not started, but the Edomites were a very big part of it, okay? See, we were first called Christians in Antioch, but that's not the same as Christianity. They were just saying we were Christ-like, okay? We talked about Herod the Great. Um, and this right here talks about the Romans destroying the temple. And it's telling you 70 AD is when it happened. Finally captured the Temple Mount and destroyed the second temple, an event mourned annually in Judaism. Okay, I don't know why they mourn it. They're the ones who did it. They're still trying to cover their identity. So the first German Jewish Roman war, should say Jew Roman war, is still depicting the same thing, 70 CE. Okay, let's get to where we're going now. That's the picture. That's another picture. Is this? Okay, I want to show you some stuff right here. This is Mount Seir. See if I can pull that up. If you remember, I showed you Mount Seir is the home of Esau. Now I want you to notice something about Mount Seir. Look at this. Look at all this stuff in the rocks. Look at the architecture. Look at it. Let me pull this one up so you can see it good. This is what they did in the rocks. This is the same architecture that you find in Rome and Greece today. And that's not the only place you find it. We're going to talk about it next week. They did this in the rocks. So let's pull up something real quick. Let's go to Obadiah. Let's go to Obadiah 1 and 3, I think it is. Yeah, verse 3. Obadiah 1 and 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. Who dwelled in the clefts of the rock? Esau did. Look, verse 1. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle, against Edom in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. And y'all say, well, Edom's not small. Oh, King David, if you look at Second Kings, thought he had killed every one of them. But one prince and his entourage escaped into Egypt, and they rebuilt the nation from there. Um, verse 4. Though thou exalt thyself as an eagle, what's the bird of America? The eagle. What's the bird of Rome? The eagle. On their standards, they flew the eagle. All right, so let's do this. Let's look up Great Dragon, okay? Let me show you something. I thought I had it out here already. Let's just get us another. Let's look up the Dragon of Rome. All right, so look at this. In Roman culture, the Draco, they got the word Draco from the Greeks, was a military standard resembling a dragon, symbolizing power and authority, and it played a significant role in both military and cultural contexts. The Draco was a prominent military standard. When it says standard, it's like a flag, okay? Used by the Roman cavalry, characterized by its dragon-like head and a long flowing fabric tail. This tail was usually red. The Draco itself, it was golden in color. This standard was not only a symbol of the unit's identity, but also served practical purposes, such as indicating wind direction for horse archers. I'm going to show you something about this in just a second. Now, this thing, let me see if I can find a picture of it. Let me see. Maybe they got a picture here. See these dragons? This is all representing Rome. Here goes one right here. Let me get this. Now look at this. See, this is cloth. And so the wind would come in this way, and coming out that back, it would actually whistle. So the enemy would hear the Romans coming. You got the feet stomping of the horses, because this is flown by the cavalry. And then you got these things whistling. And so it's putting fear in anybody, and they know that the Roman cavalry is coming, okay? Now let's see what the Bible has to say about that. This just popped into my head. And I said, let me go ahead and show this real quick. This beast here is talked about throughout the Bible. So we got Revelation 20 and 2, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. We already read that, right? Um, that's not the one I want, though. Hold on. You see all these dragons? This is referring to Rome. Here you go. This is the one I want right here. 12 and 9. It says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil. The devil just means deceiver. That's all devil means. And Satan, which deceiveth the whole world, he was cast into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Don't let this fool you. There was no war in heaven. Look, let me explain this to you. Verse 7, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angel. There was no war in heaven. That's not what that means. Heaven just means the position of power or rulership, okay? So what it's saying is there was a war against the mighty powers of the earth, okay? And we prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. So they defeated us, okay? Just like what we've been talking about. And it calls it the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. That's when they got defeated, okay? Now watch this. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. So Satan, the devil, Rome, they are going to be defeated at some point. We're going to take over heaven. Heaven being rulership on this earth. That's all that means. But I want to show you something about the devil. So let's click on tools. But I want you to see that dragon. It's giving you hints on who it's talking about, okay? Now let's look at devil, G1228. So right here, King James Version translates Strong's G1228 in the following manner. Devil, false accuser, slanderer. Outline of biblical usage right down here. Prone to slander, slanderous, accusing falsely. Just a deceiver, that's all he is. False accuser, slanderer. Applied to a man who applied to who? A man who by opposing the cause of God may be said to act the part of the devil or to side with him. You see that? Now let's go into the Strongs. Here we go. So it gives verses using it, and it says calaminator, I'm gonna leave that one alone. False accuser, slanderer. Let me see, try and get that out. To the one called in Hebrew, namely Satan, the prince of demons, the author of evil, prosecuting good men. So it could refer to Satan, but most of the time it's applied to a man, okay? Estranging mankind from God. That's all a slanderer does, okay? The devil can also refer to demons. You see a lot of times where the scripture talking about and cast out a devil, okay? So devil has multiple meanings, but mainly it always comes back to deceiver or slanderer, okay? That's what I wanted y'all to see. So don't get caught up every time you see the devil, you think it's talking about Satan. That's not necessarily true. What time do we have? 9:16. Oh man, I went over my time. Hadn't even got to everything I wanted to. Okay, we'll be back next week. I want to thank y'all for joining. I hope this has been edifying. The main purpose was to show y'all that Rome is the fourth beast. And we're going to go forward next week and show you who that little horn is, okay? I want to say thank you for joining again. We're going to log out.